My name is Ari Lowry, and today I'll be presenting on healthcare in long-term space habitation. This is my table of contents, and I want to talk a little bit about why I chose this line of research. So my paper regarded all sociological institutions. So I looked at everything from religion to resources to healthcare. But for this presentation, I chose to focus on healthcare because there are so many emerging technologies that are currently available that are going to make it so much more plausible to have these space civilizations. And I'd also like to start off with some assumptions. As per the NSS guidelines, this will be defined as a small habitat outside of Earth's atmosphere when I refer to long-term space habitation. It will not be located on a planet, however, it will have direct contact with Earth, and it will have less than 300 citizens while aimed for multi-generational self-sufficient habitation. So what do we already know about the ethics and the health implications of life in space? Thanks to the ISS, we actually know quite a bit. However, what we found has been largely negative. Microgravity has numerous impacts on the human body, from spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome to nephritis, reduced immune function, and insulin resistance. These are all things that have to be taken into account when we consider how we can make this plausible. I've devised three main questions that must be tackled in order to make it healthcare plausible in order to achieve life in space on the long term. The first question is the radiation question. This is due to the fact that the extent of long-term radiation damage on the human body is largely unknown. In space, there are three main types of radiation: galactic cosmic rays, solar particle radiation, and cosmic background radiation. While we experience all of these forces on Earth, our atmosphere allows us to experience them at much lower rates, especially cosmic background radiation, which is the main type of radiation that could be negatively impacting life in space. These types of radiation have caused numerous health concerns in ISS astronauts, including cataracts, sterility, organ failure, and lung inflammation, which will be magnified when it comes to multi-generational habitation. This also plays into questions of reproduction, as you can see from this graph, with radiation in utero, the risk of childhood cancer greatly increases. This also is true across your entire lifetime, as you can see in this graph, as younger people are associated with more radiation, their rates of cancer will skyrocket. This is especially important to consider when we're considering the type of facilities needed to maintain space life, as oncology will have to be of a larger focus due to these data metrics. Another consideration is lifetime care. This ranges from pre- and postnatal care to emergency care and risk mitigation. Another huge aspect of lifetime care is mental health support due to the lack of vitamin D in space civilizations. While I'm not diving into it too much in this presentation, it's very important to consider that the ways that mental health is impacted by lack of sunlight could merit additional facilities being utilized in space habitation. The lifetime care cycle, however, spans much more than just pre- and postnatal care, as it also includes emergency care, rehabilitation, and palliative care. Rehabilitation is especially an important microcosm of this, as there are many negative impacts associated with bones and joints when it comes to the life in space and the lack of radioactive systems and base presence for human life in space. The second question that we have to discuss is the conception question, as many experts believe that radiation will make fertility and conception in space impossible. This theory has never been tested, however, they theorize that radiation may impact sperm motility and implantation, causing it to be impossible. As you can see here, there's a very high risk of ovarian failure associated with the radiation, especially in prepubescent girls. Many people who experience radiation through chemotherapy or other misadventures at a lower age will have ovarian failure. However, there are also some current advancements that may make reproduction in space more of a possibility. Spaceborne United aims to use artificial technology to assisted reproduce in space by the year 2028. Though this will not use traditional conception and will require some level of medical intervention, it will be the first time that conception and viability will be tested in a microgravity environment. This company and many others, however, have also faced fierce ethical scrutiny due to the ethical debates of conception space. This is because of the aforementioned radiation, as well as problems with asthma, and the fact that some experts believe that space, especially when coupled with small-sized habitations, could lead to coercion and could also cause children to not be able to adapt to life on Earth. However, with every possible impact of these space habitations, there are many possibilities that can be implemented and many reasons why healthcare in space is an avenue that should be explored. The most promising of these at this time is 3D printed organs. 3D printed organs will not be available for use on Earth due to gravitational forces. However, in microgravity, it has been theorized that it is possible to 3D print even the smallest organs, such as the cornea of the eye. This would make eye implants and eye transplants much more viable in the long term, and there are also many possibilities outside of healthcare, including reduced climate change and natural resource management. One of the main reasons I wanted to focus on healthcare in this presentation is due to robotic integration solutions. This is the next step to present-day laparoscopic surgery. AI is already being used to diagnose and treat patients, especially when they have HPV, AIDS, and other infectious diseases. So, the ACS predicts that surgical integration with AI could occur within the next decade. The Da Vinci surgical robot is currently on the cutting edge of robotic technologies. However, many experts think that these robots could be controlled from space by doctors on Earth or vice versa. Many also believe that AI could completely man these robots in the future, completely negating the need for doctors in space habitation. The other main technology I want to focus on is the idea of 3D printing. Leroy Cronin is currently the world's leading expert in 3D printing medication at home, and he synthesized this 3D printer that has been able to synthesize anti-gastric agents, phytocladin, and many other base medications. This is customizable and compact, and I included it in my research for space allowances for these healthcare systems because it's on the cutting edge of technology and could provide much more personalized aspects to the biggest resource management issue of healthcare in space, which is pharmaceuticals. With all that being said, I calculated through use of the Mayo Clinic's current standards for oncology wards, as well as other cutting-edge research like Dana-Farber, and I also used the new technologies discussed, such as robotic integration, to allocate a spatial allowance of the settlement hospital, which would be approximately 3,550 square feet. This allows room for research, as well as oncological practices and other major advancements, as well as important research that could be conducted on microgravity and an emphasis on rehabilitation due to bone and joint connectivity problems in space. Overall, the big three questions in healthcare in space are: how will radiation affect long-term life in space? Is conception possible in space? And is AI capable of reliably performing tasks in healthcare, especially with regard to connectivity? With all this being said, these are the questions that must be answered before we know for sure if life in space is viable. Thank you for coming to my presentation, and please reach out to me with any questions.